Distraught over the death of his two children, he has a dream that shows what he can do to bring his two children back. The first is to adopt a little girl who in her prior life had a horrible life. Her parents died, everything was in ruins, she was kidnapped, turned into a ghost bride, and you know what happens to ghost brides. And they even pulled out her eyes when they sent her off to be a ghost bride. He could adopt her, or he could sacrifice his life for his children's lives. So he chooses number one at first. And he raises her. He doesn't give her any affection or attention, but he makes sure that she becomes the best sect leader she possibly could become. But when his two children don't show up like he wants, but it's mostly because he doesn't have the patience to wait, he decides to return that plan and go back in time. He goes back in time. He does all what he does. He goes around collecting the bodies. He does something to the Guardian. I guess at this point, the Guardian really doesn't exist in this timeline. I wasn't really sure about it. But yes, he gets the bodies, makes the Bazaar's location technically under his domain. Because in the other timelines, the SAC did not have control over this domain. The domain was under the control of the Guardian, but now it's under his reign and control. I'm not sure. I was confused about that. Sorry, but I'm pretty sure I was correct. But yes, it's under his reign and control, and this timeline, he's able to bring the bodies from one location to the next location. He ends up adopting a little boy, because at this point, he wasn't really going to sacrifice himself to bring back his kids. No, he's going to sacrifice somebody else's life to bring back his kids. So that is who his adopted son is supposed to be, basically a sacrificial tool. He does end up adopting his daughter again, and this time it's a little different. He finds her much sooner than he did in his prior life, and there's been a little changes. She hadn't waited at the rites of gods, because she had waited and bowed and kowtowed in her prior life in the first timeline. But in this timeline, she hadn't. She went straight away to reincarnation. So, but he still ends up adopting her. He doesn't understand, because at first he wasn't going to adopt her, but this time he does adopt her. So the adopted son knew what his father was going to do to him. He knew it. Now, he never actually confronted his father, but it was so obvious what was going on. He wasn't stupid. He knew what his father was going to do to him. Like, all the signs were there. He has a brain, but he was unwilling to go through it. He wanted to see if his father would ever regret doing what he was doing. I mean, his father used to call him son, so he thought they had a fatherly and son relationship. But hearing his adopted father repeatedly talk about his biological children, the way he's talking, finally set him off, because his adopted father had snapped into the scene when everybody is looking into things and they're talking to the adopted son and they're confronting him about things. He walked into the scene. He's like, oh, I see that some celestial beings have shown up, but he didn't know who the celestial beings were until he sees who the celestial beings were, and then he is shocked by it. But he thought the male lead couldn't possibly stop what he was planning. But the male lead, he's able to stop what was going to happen. Basically, he breaks up all the bounds and chains and enforces this dude to reveal who the people he was going to sacrifice his adopted son for. And he reveals everything, and it snaps his adopted son out of it, and his adopted son basically loses it on the old man, how he's felt all over the years, how he felt being treated. He thought his adopted father at least cared for him, that he had hoped that his adopted father would regret. He even revealed to his adopted father that yes, he had thoughts of getting rid of his adopted father and as stopping his adopted father from doing what his adopted father was going to do to him. But every time he thought of stopping his adopted father, he just could not bring himself to it. Also, enforcing the old man to reveal everything injured the old man, and then the son attacks him, I think, or at least his verbal attack is enough to harm and weaken the old man. But I think he does physically attack the old man, and then the male lead steps in and does, his absolving thing, and it basically sets the old man free. What little good the old man had still in him, it basically freed that part of him and released that. Yes, that is what happened. I'm a little confused, but this old man was a terrible old man. And I don't think the adopted son dies at that. I think he was still alive at the end. I'm not sure. Where the adopted son was basically loyal to his adopted father and thought they had a connection and bond and relationship as adopted son and adopted father, like a real one, like son and father. He wasn't just an adopted child that this man took in, that he could be seen as the real thing. Because again, adopted children are the real children of their parents. But sadly, people don't treat them that way, especially in this time period. And even now, people don't treat adopted children like the adopted child is their adopted parent's actual child. They just treat that this child is under this person's care. And that is what the adopted daughter feels about her father. They do not have a bond, they do not have a connection. I do not think she knows what's going on. She was arable with her brother. She and her brother do not have a relationship at all because, again, she thinks her brother is foolish and stupid for thinking he could actually have a bond and relationship with their dad. And maybe she does remember her original timeline. So this isn't the timeline they're technically from. If I'm correctly, it's not their timeline because the adopted son of the sack leader, he's not mentioned when the doctor talks to them before they head out to that sack. Because he's like, I know who the adopted daughter is. She is the future sack leader, but she's also way older than she was in my timeline from when I knew her. She is way older than she's supposed to be at this period of time. She's supposed to be much younger, but she is not. I also do not know who her brother is. Like, he is never once mentioned or acknowledged in the future. So this is a different timeline. That's why the brother is not mentioned at all. But at the same time, I am confused because what is going on? Like, I understand that this is different timelines, it's being all looped together. Why are they being shown this timeline then? What is going on that they need to see this timeline? Because even the main character's questioning what has happened because he knows his past self was here. Why did his past self not really do anything to stop it when he obviously knew something was going on? He had even gave the innkeeper a bell that was like his bell, but just a little different. It was just a weaker, smaller version of his actual bell. So he's like, what is going on? He also ends up passing out, and that's where the story ends. Like, he full on passes out. Things are fracturing around them, or typically the area they're in, it's fracturing and falling apart on them, or the timeline itself, the illusion itself is fracturing on them and falling onto them, and they need to get out of there. They also need to get to the doctor. They need to find the second goon. I do not know where the second goon is because they never mentioned where he is, and I am worried for him. I am really worried for him. I hope they find him and get out of there and they stick with him. Maybe he ended up not going in the illusion with them and he's stuck in their actual timeline. I want to know where he is. I am worried about the doctor too. Like, I am stressed. And I have book 3 ordered. It should be here soon. I am very excited for book 3. I'm pretty sure book 4 is last book, but it won't be out for a while. I could be wrong and book 4 is not the last book, but I'm pretty sure it is. I am just so stressed. I need to know. I need my little grubby hands on these books. I have a theory. I could possibly be wrong about this theory, but the main character, he has 2 page boys. And these page boys possibly are his 2 goons. Maybe they're the goons' his past lives. But I just have the feeling that these page boys are the goons because they fit the same personalities. They're just so similar, or just the main character likes collecting the same duo. It could possibly be one of those 2.